Hey guys, it's Abby with MotorCityNerds, and let's talk about Loki Season 2. I'm on OF, I'm on TikTok, I'm on all the things down below. I ranted about this on my social media already, and I'm upset I didn't get this out earlier. Remember to subscribe, we're on our way to 2K, we're small, but we're awesome over here, we have fun, and it really matters, and it really helps if you hit like, so please do that. Check out my other videos. My reaction to Godzilla is doing really well, but I don't know why, because the sound is all jacked up, and it really pisses me off. But yeah, let's just get right into Loki Season 2, which I think is probably the best thing Marvel's done, and I'm saying that including the movies in the last 5 years. What year is it? When did Endgame come out? Because besides that, I really do. I think Loki is the best thing they've done. I think you can tell that people really care about it. They really care about this character, and I really love what they did. I just have a few issues, but it's also because you're messing with time. So that's always a complicated thing. Anyway, I do feel like they could have cut this down. I do feel like they could have cut Loki into 4 little bit longer episodes instead of 6. I feel like we didn't use Sylvie as much as I would have liked, or maybe in a way I would have liked. And I also didn't like that they completely dropped. Like, that was a Nexus level event that they kissed, and then we completely dropped that part of it. But I also really love whenever friendship is the focal point, because I feel like friendship, even in regular life, is not... I feel like people take the word friendship for granted. And they take that term for granted, and and a lot of people take those relationships for granted. Like, if I call you my friend, I got you. You're my friend. I got you 1,000%. So I really love that Loki's like, no, I love my friends. I love that. I was just like, we really dropped that completely. And I want to know this, Ford, you're the worst. You already know my beef with Ford Motor Company and McDonald's. How much did you pay? How much did they pay to have those be so in our faces in this? That kind of distracted me. But I used to work at Ford, if you're new here, so I always thought it was interesting to be like, oh no, I build F-150s, I see it over there, even if you took the logo off of it. And it always interested me to see, like, how much did these companies pay to have a superhero, specifically in the Marvel franchise, get in and out of your vehicle? And that was such a focal point outside of that McDonald's, with Sylvie going to it several times, and I just think things like that are interesting. So I'm like, Ford, McDonald's, how much did you pay? We all know that you have more bank than anything, but how much did you pay? And like I always give Loki a lot of credit for, is they're putting so much into this and making it a cohesive thing for everybody to understand. That's not easy to do. Where are my Dark Tower people at? Because we all know Loki was going toe dash, and if I start using terms like that, I apologize, but the time slipping and establishing that in the first episode, I thought that was really cool. And showing the end and then going back, showing the end in the beginning and then going back to it can sometimes come off played out or cheesy or a cop-out. I don't feel like it did with this at all. I don't feel that way, but I really liked the way they explained everything, the way they explained the time slipping, the way they explained all of that in the very beginning and throughout it was really, really well done. And my mom knows Marvel better than I do. I'm just going to be real with you guys. If you've been over here, you know this. But when it comes to multiverses and time jumping and all that type of stuff, sometimes she gets caught up in the minutia, and there was a couple times in this she did, but she didn't. And that's how I gauge things. I'm like, okay, can the average person get through this and really enjoy it, and can a super freak like me and the rest of us really enjoy this? And I felt like they did accomplish that. As usual, this was visually stunning. I love the way it kind of gives off a Wes Anderson vibe of the... Sorry, that my camera died for a minute. But it gives off a Wes Anderson-y vibe of the symmetry, but not, and it's like off in a way that it's just eerie and unnerving, and I really loved all that. I really do feel like, though, and I didn't hate that it was 6 episodes, I'm nitpicking here when I say these things, I do feel like we could have done this in 4. I do feel like when we got to the end and it was going all the way back, I'm like, I feel like we could have done this sooner, but I don't hate it, obviously. I love the introduction of characters. I loved using Casey more. I loved OB. I really did, and I liked getting to know these characters more. And I liked that we kind of had a different goal in the first 3 episodes, which was we don't want these timelines and all these people to be eradicated, and then it turned into something bigger. And I really enjoyed that part. I loved the introduction of Victor Timely. I loved everything they did with Renslayer, even though they left that open-ended. I do think that we should incorporate more things from the comics between Kang and her, but that's a whole other discussion, not for now. But I really loved Victor Timely, and I really loved whenever they were running around Chicago. Was that episode 4? I really loved that a lot. I really loved seeing the comedy with the seriousness. I loved this ragtag group together. I thought that was amazing, and I liked seeing, and we'll get into it more in a minute, Jonathan Majors get to play a different version of this character. And one thing I really loved is that the one line of dialogue he had was when he said, I don't do partnerships because a conqueror don't do that. I'm a conqueror for a reason. There's only a throne for one. And I really loved it. I don't know if that's what they meant to do, but I loved that line of dialogue, even from this perceived to be meek and weaker character. And even Kang, or He Who Remains, like, smack talks him later on and is like, oh, Victor Timely, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I really loved Victor Timely. I loved him a whole lot. And I really thought that they brought this group together and really made us care about them in a very good way. Like I said, OB, doing more with Casey, doing more with Hunter, whatever. I really liked her character. And Victor Timely and bringing them in, and not just Loki and Mobius and Sylvie and Loki and Mobius doing this odd couple thing. I really felt like this group worked, and it was a fun, good time. And I think people forget, like, that's what I want in my Marvel a lot of the times. I want a good time, whether it's serious or sad or whatever, but I want a good time with a good story with awesome characters. And that is what we got with this. Interesting part is my friend came over and we watched the finale together. And then I liked it better on a second viewing. I really did. And there was a couple things where I was shocked that they went there. In one of the episodes when they did the crushing of the characters and had like those sound effects, I was shocked by that. There were things in the final episode that I was really shocked by. But he, in the very beginning, before like the episode even started getting going, he goes, when is Loki gonna be a god? When is he going to do godlike things? This man is a god. He is above these other people when it comes to the power he has. When are we going to see that? And when we got to see him walking out, and it changed into his Asgardian uniform, not uniform, but clothing and his custom and his people. And we go back to glorious purpose and I deserve the throne, and turning it into Yggdrasil was so cool. That was so cool. That was so well done. Having the burden of purpose, and that being his burden now is to be alone, but be the watcher, be watching, just like He Who Remains was. I thought that was beautiful. I thought that was beautifully done and was so epic and so cool. And when you saw his horns come back on, and they were that like put together, cracked looking way that He Who Remains' place was built like. You know how it had the cracks all in it and everything? If you look at Loki's horns, they were like that. And just those little details were so cool. And I really, really loved that. It was awesome. But I could also see, my first watch through, I really was like, man, we kind of don't need all this. But then on my second watch through, I really was like, no, this was really beautifully done. It really was. I don't think we needed everything we had throughout all the episodes. But like I said, that's nitpicking. I'm not complaining about it. But the second watch through, I really was like, no, this was beautifully written, beautifully done, a full circle for this character, and I really love it. There were tons of little Easter eggs for super fans, which I always really enjoy and think is really cool. But here's where I have an issue, and this bothered me when I watched it the first time, and it bothered me when I watched it the second time. Now, they don't outright say Kang's gone. But they did say in a way like, oh, we have him under control. No, don't do that. Don't do that, Disney. Don't do that, Marvel. Even if you do, get rid of Jonathan Majors, which I've gone in extensively about how I feel about that situation that went on. If you guys just want me to say how I truly feel about that situation, how I felt from the jump, and I was in an abusive relationship, I know what that entails. My heart goes out to anybody dealing with that. It's not black and white. It's not this easy thing that people, if you've never dealt with it, you don't understand. I don't really think that's what was going on here. But I don't know. I'm not them. What I do think is that they are the worst. You guys all know that couple. You guys all know that couple that is awful to go out with, to the bar or to hang out with or whatever. And then they start slapping phones out of each other's hands, and you're texting this person and you're texting that person, and what are you doing? That's what it felt like to me, like a toxic thing that came to a head and they had it out. And it's not right. That's not what I'm saying here. But I don't believe people should be losing their jobs or be automatically fired without things being proven. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's right. I also don't think it's right to hone in on this woman because she's not the megastar. She's not. We don't care about you. We care about him. I'm not saying that she doesn't matter. I'm saying that we care because you are a huge focal point in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is the biggest movie series that has ever existed in the history of the world. Get your shit together. Get your shit together. Go to therapy. Get your shit together. I do think you're paying Megan Good to walk into court with you holding your hand. I do think you got a female lawyer on purpose for PR. I do believe that. And the other thing that irks me, and then we'll get past this, is when people say dumb things like, oh, well, they lost their sponsorship. That happens all the time. Look at the internet. That happens all the time. Companies have a right to go, we don't give a shit if you did something or not. We don't want to be affiliated with that. They have every single right to do that and to drop him. Do I think it's right? No. Do I think it's cool? No. Do they have a right to do that? And I think people kind of forget that. Yes. That's on them. It is what it is. You messed up, bud. I think that that's what happened, personally. I think that this needs to be checked out more. I think that court needs to happen. I think things need to happen before official things are said, but I do not think this character should be thrown away. I love Jonathan Majors as this character, but if he's out here strangling ladies, no. I don't think it's a good idea for them to keep him in the series, but I do think that things need to be... Johnny Depp proved that to all of us. Like, these things need to be done correctly before people are just automatically let go and have their lives overturned. I don't want this to come off like I'm callous or like I don't care about others. This is a very nuanced conversation that I'm not getting into right now, which is like, let's call women crazy. Let's have police dealing with a black man in his own home and dealing with that and being a certain kind of way. I'm not going to get into that right now. This is about the Loki series. But I don't think, whether or not Jonathan Majors stays on, which I love him as Kang, I really do love him as Kang, I don't think they should get rid of this character. And they definitely worded it in a way, if you go back and rewatch it, where they're like, oh, we kind of have him under control. And then they do the little Easter egg of going, oh, we had one near Earth, or near a world near Earth 616, yada, yada, yada. That's Ant-Man, Quantumania. And that's cool, but they still were like, oh, we kind of have him. And I'm like, that's a coward-ass move. That's a coward-ass move to do. Because I don't think this character should be gone. I really don't. But they do leave it in a way, and I'm like, this is all I'm saying is don't alter your best project you've done in a long time, Marvel, because of this outside situation. You have the multiverse now. You can bring in another actor. You have that option. It's all good. Like, don't make it more than it is what I'm saying. And that, like I said, that's not me being callous. That's not me going, what he did is okay, what she did is okay, what she did is wrong, what he did is wrong. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying here is, when it comes to the project of Loki, you shouldn't have done that. And like I said, it came off to me like, oh, welcome back to the real world, and you guys are scared of this situation. Scared of that situation, you're scared of legal stuff, and so it altered, even in a little tiny way, the way you wrote part of this show. And that irked me a little bit. I did not like that, and I don't think they should get rid of this character, like I said, whether or not he stays on or doesn't. But I loved the ending with Mobius and Sylvie and having Loki watching through everything. I loved all of that. Everything they did with the Loki character was fantastic. It's like, okay, well, you're leaving it open in a way that you could just be like, oh, it's solved. And I don't want that. I really don't. And I don't think other Marvel fans want that either. But I'm Abby with Motor City Nerds. You can tell me I'm dumb down in the comments. You can tell me what you thought about this series. You can tell me how you feel about it. But I do think this is probably the best thing, like writing-wise, character arc-wise, visually, that Marvel has done. It's definitely the best series they have. I think I don't know if it's completely over, but I think it is, and I think it's a beautiful way to bring this character full circle, which rightfully so. It's after him, not after Kang, but I just didn't like that little tail end thrown on. But yeah, subscribe, comment, share. It really helps me out a lot. Tell me what you thought about Loki down below. Tell me what you think Marvel should do, because I definitely think I've talked to Movie Lovers Unite about this. I've talked to Multiverse of Geekdom about this. I've talked to a lot of people. I've talked to average people about this, where I'm just like, I don't think it's superhero fatigue. I don't think that's it. I think Disney and Marvel are at a weird spot of going, we want to, that's why they're bringing in all these kids and stuff, because they want to go, we want to get this younger audience, but you still have us to keep happy. You know what I mean? And we want our Daredevils. And I think Black Widow suffered from this, but there's very serious, big, violent characters that you have that we want to see as adults and people that are getting older. And I was in 9th grade when the first Iron Man came out, so I've grown up with this, you know what I mean? And there are people younger than me that have really grown up with these characters, but they're older now. And I feel like Disney's really struggling to find that, and they're trying with bringing in Hulu and all these things. They're really struggling with squeaky clean, but we do need to age some of this up. Squeaky clean, but we do have an audience that's adults or becoming adults that want to see these characters go harder, and rightfully so. And I don't want no X-Men brought in until you do that, because, God, I cannot wait to hear the crying. I cannot wait to hear the crying about X-Men. Can I just say this really quick? X2, X-Men United, is probably my favorite superhero film of all time. I think Brian Cox as William Stryker is the greatest villain Marvel has ever had on screen. Fight me on that. Could we do that? Could you have that Nightcrawler scene now? Could you have that Nightcrawler scene now? Could you have Nightcrawler running through the fucking White House and trying to assassinate the president in the Oval Office, and they can't stop him, and guns are being fired, and then it says mutant freedom now, and it's a whole, that's what X-Men is it's always been a civil rights or a minority group or a fighting back story. Magneto is my favorite character of all time. So I'm just like, I don't want to see them get brought into this mishmash. We don't know where we're falling yet on the rating scale for like violence and things like that. I don't want that. I don't want that yet, because that is the one thing where I'm like, take care of them. really seriously take care of them because they're the best. It's the best. It has the best message. It has the best everything. But could really think about that. People would go nuts now. People would be like, oh my God, an attack on the president. Oh my God, you are woke. Oh my God. They would go nuts. Go back and rewatch X2. But I don't want them to get brought in at this weird time. And tell me if you agree with that. I think that they're really struggling with that. I think they're really going, are we getting too violent? Or are we not violent enough? And over here we'll be squeaky clean for kids. And over here we'll have this for older audiences. But tell me what you think down below. And I will fight anybody on that. William Stryker, Brian Cox is probably the best villain Marvel. It might not be in the MCU. Best villain they've ever had on screen. It is my favorite superhero film of all time. I watched it so many times as a kid that the DVD burned out. Yes, that was a possibility. I don't know if you youngins know that. That was a possibility.